Now that we are quite confident about our diagnosis of idiopathic intracranial hypertension or pseudotumor cerebri, so the next step is to explore different treatment options and goals of the treatment. So the main objective is to preserve the function of optic nerve and at the same time managing intracranial hypertension. So because if it is left untreated, it can lead to secondary optic atrophy and then permanent visual loss. So whenever patient comes to visit us, we monitor not only the symptoms like headache, nausea, vomiting, and also visual disturbances, but also we check for color vision, visual fields, and visual acuity. We divide different treatment options into pharmacological treatment, non-pharmacological treatment, and surgical treatment. Another very important step in the management of patient is to arrange the follow-up. For the patients who does not have any visual symptoms or have mild visual symptoms, they can be seen in outpatient department after every 2 to 4 weeks. But for the patients who have significant visual symptoms or who have papilledema, they should be monitored on daily basis for at least 1 week until there is improvement or stabilization in the visual function. So once the patient is stable in terms of visual symptoms and headache and other symptoms, he can call back every 2 to 4 months. Firstly, let's discuss non-pharmacological treatment options. All the medications which are considered as culprit of causing raised intracranial pressure should be discontinued. Secondly, patients should be counseled for weight loss because there is evidence that weight loss significantly improves all the symptoms. So advise the patient about maintaining active lifestyle, daily physical activity, eating healthy food. We can refer the patient to a dietitian at this stage, and if patient is morbidly obese, then consider referring for bariatric surgery. Now come to the pharmacological treatment. The first line treatment is medical, and many patients do very well with medication. Medicines not only help getting relief of symptoms like headache, but also stabilize and improve the visual issues. So if there is not an acute threat to vision, start with the medical therapy. First one is acetazolamide. It is first line drug which is carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, and it reduces the production of CSF. It is started at a dose of 250 to 500 mg per oral TID. Next one is topiramate. This is basically anti-epileptic drug. It not only lowers the CSF pressure but have additional benefit of weight loss. Next is furosemide. It is a loop diuretic and can be used as an adjuvant therapy. Then corticosteroids. They are sometimes used as a supplement to acetazolamide when there is severe papilledema and quick recovery is required. But steroids are risky to use because there are chances of relapse when you stop them. Repeated lumbar puncture reduces the CSF pressure on temporary basis. It was once considered as a treatment option but not now because CSF reforms in 6 hours. It is uncomfortable for the patient and it is technically difficult in obese patient. So nowadays it is not a preferred treatment when very effective medical treatment is available. Now let's see different surgical treatment options. Basically, surgical treatment is opted for the patients who either don't improve despite medical therapy or who are non-compliant to medication or who cannot tolerate the medication. So the first one amongst them is optic nerve sheath fenestration. This is performed by making holes in dura mater surrounding the optic nerve. So CSF is filtered through them and pressure is not directly transmitted to optic nerve. So although this procedure doesn't reduce the overall CSF pressure, but it can save optic nerve. The next one is CSF diversion procedures. These are lumboperitoneal shunting or ventriculoperitoneal shunting. These procedures are considered when patients don't respond to medical treatment and they are very effective in reducing intracranial pressure. As this condition of idiopathic intracranial hypertension or pseudotumor cerebri presents most commonly in women of childbearing age, so it's very important to know its relationship with the pregnancy. So do remember few points. Pseudotumor cerebri or idiopathic intracranial hypertension can worsen during pregnancy due to weight gain. One possible cause in pregnancy could be dural sinus thrombosis because you know that pregnancy is a procoagulant state. Remember that acetazolamide can be used as normal during second and third trimester but not during the first trimester because of some safety issues. And keep in mind that mode of delivery is not affected and spinal anesthesia can be given as normal. Pseudotumor cerebri or idiopathic intracranial hypertension can disturb the mental, physical, and visual health of the patient, and it can seriously affect their quality of life. So, a timely diagnosis and effective management can save the patient from a lot of misery.